Greetings from Yerevan, and I'm happy to join this inspiring conference and to congratulate also the team of Zimmer, because on these days there is another challenge to go on with particularly international projects. I know that very well, so congratulations for that. And now I'm going to share my screen. So can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Perfect.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you about what happened to the Armenian museums and how they reacted to the situation with pandemic, and what are our plans with the reopening, and what sorts of support projects we are going to implement with our partners. Well, I represent the
Annie,
ICOM.
excuse me, just can you speak in the microphone, because translators are asking to the...
Okay, I will.
Yeah, please. Okay.
Okay. So just to represent myself, I'm the chair of ICOM National Committee of Armenia and the director of Regional Center for Cultural Heritage Enhancement, Protection and Management. That is a project financed by Italian ICS, International Cooperation Agency, for quality criteria and all sorts of professional expertise and so on. So with our partners, we have reacted on the situation, and I'm going to share with you some information. Before that, I'd like to give you some insight about the museum community in Armenia, which includes also museum reserves as well. So you see here that in Armenia, it's a small country, and there are only 125 museums of different scale, geographical distribution, impact, and also the authorities are different. So almost 50 of these museums are under the authority of Ministry of Education, Science, Culture and Sports of Armenia. 5 of these museums are foundation-based museums, and 70, the major part, are community-based museums. All these museums host about 2 million cultural heritage objects, and they employ about 2,300 employees. This morning I collected information about COVID pandemic in Armenia, and you see that in comparison with the small population of Armenia, which is only about 3 million, we have really a high level of distribution of COVID-19. And as you see, it's about 29,000 cases, luckily 16,000 recovered, and with 491 deaths badly. So in this situation, I must say that the pandemic in Armenia officially was announced in 16th of March, when the cases started to increase, and immediately the all cultural institutions, including museums and also open-air museum reserve sites, were locked down. Till now, most of them are closed because, well, actually the Ministry of Education, Science, Culture and Sports reacted really quickly. They mobilized and created a strategic plan of moving the work from museums to homes, and also the communication to the digital platforms. I will talk about this more in details later. Constant weekly monitoring was conducted to observe what sorts of digital communication was delivered by each institution. And there is one good news, that the open-air side museums, not the museums, but the open-air parts, were reopened on 19th of May 2020. I'm sharing here one example of a regional museum. When House Museum of Ovanescu Manyan in the said village, all my Georgian colleagues would know this name because one of his house museums is located in Tbilisi. Well, the village where Hovhannes Manyan comes is located in the north of Armenia, in Lori region. And the majority of the visitors of this museum were school children because it's kind of a part of school curriculum, and every school student has to visit this museum. But I cannot say that it's really popular within other communities. But pandemic conditions really forced museums to come to the online platform, which had also its advantages. Just to show you that this is in this screenshot, you see the director of this museum, who is showing a master class of a cookie that was a traditional cookie that was the favorite one of Hovhannes Tumanyan and was cooked by his mother. So she sort of revives the intangible heritage. I have heard about this first time in this video, but what is interesting that even without tools, without having professional cameras, this is shooted on just with simple like iPhone camera. This video became really popular, and it had got more than 3,000 views in a case when you see in the little screenshot that the page of this museum has only about 930 likes and community around. So it's really a huge result in this case. I would like to also, in this case, comment to three sets talk about the content, about the good content of the posted materials. Of course, it's very important, but we should really look into deeper what means good content, because sometimes it's really not clear why these or those posts became popular or not, as in this case. And I think that our observations also proved that museum professionals really need skills and knowledge about SMM, about content creation for social media, and so on. So this is just an example to show you. Well, I decided to talk about the advantages of the lockdown, because we all very well know and claim all these advantages. So I just want to observe the advantages of the lockdown. After the lockdown in the country, well, in this case, I speak about the Armenian case. People had no way but to rethink the format of their everyday work. I can claim you that for a few decades, with the efforts of ICOM Armenia and its partners, we have organized a number of activities, workshops, seminars, the conferences, and so on, to promote using the online platforms for coming closer to their communities, for involving new communities, but it didn't have that result in comparison with the 3 months of lockdown, when the museums were really obliged to learn new skills and specialties. Another important thing, because of the savings from the travel expenses, particularly travel expenses, I don't know, catering and so on, that were canceled because of the lockdown, the donors became more interested to support the cultural institutions. This is also an advantage, because years and years you go to different donors asking to support these or those institutions, but the results are poor really. But in this case, I can say that it's easier now. Our life is really easier. Cultural institutions outreached to those publics that were not interested in and found museums as boring places. It's also a sort of advantage. And it was really claimed by a number of museum professionals in Armenia. International tourism is growing, sorry, not international, the internal tourism is growing, and the local communities are becoming more interested in the next door cultural institutions due to the limitation of geographical movement. We all experience the case when we never visit a museum or a site next to our doors, thinking that, well, the life is long and one day it's close to me, I will visit this or that museum. But in this case, when we have no possibility to visit other places, we go to the next door institutions. So in this situation, ICOM Armenia and its partners, the ministry, the ROCHEMP Center, and some other organizations mobilized to support the sector, to support the field of cultural institutions to survive and to come out from these pandemic conditions. So what we did, we first thing we did, we started to, well, the board of ICOM Armenia really thought and developed the strategies how to go on in this situation, and we decided to look into the needs of the sector. First thing we did, we organized a webinar to discuss the problems and benefits that the museums had during this pandemic situation. This webinar was joined by about 80 participants, and the diversity of the participants was really very important, because we had participants not only from museums, but also the authorities, also other institutions that could be interested in partnership and so on. There was another close discussion initiated right after this webinar with our partner of My Armenia project of Smithsonian Institution to find out the problems of regional museums. I think especially in the countries in this region, we are all facing the same problems with the regional museums, especially the lack of resources, professional skills, and so on. And this was really a very important discussion to find out really exact needs of these people. Then another important thing was done to develop the guidelines that was adapted from many resources taken from our really like American, European countries, and especially ICOM provided really great instructions and guidelines that were used and adapted in Armenian language. Also, the translation is another challenge of this sort of guidelines and professional material. So a monitoring of needs that we find really important is in the process actually. We developed a questionnaire to investigate the needs of the museum and museum research staffs and infrastructure and so on, because as I have shown you in one of my first slides, the authorities are different, and though we have this state status like institution, we don't have really precise data. So this is going to be really important result of the monitoring. But for now, we can say that we found out that there is a lack of communication. There is a lack of communication tools like computers, laptops, and so on. Lack of professional staffs, we are going to organize a training for this, and of course financial resources. IMD was, I'm finishing in a few minutes. IMD 2020 came across with the pandemic period, and another support was provided for coming to the digital platform, and in Armenian language we provided some insight from ICOM how to organize that. I have already, well, this guidebook is already on the website of the ICOM Armenia. The last thing that I'd like to share with you, the results of this monitoring helped us to start fundraising procedure, and the first phase is really successful. We are going to support the 36 regional museums with the support of My Armenia project of Smithsonian Institution, and we are really working close to the ministry and the government to support the reopening of the museums. Thank you, and hope to see you soon in person.
Thank you, Ani.